Hello. So I am the biggest user of voice. If you look at I use a voice reading app, and if we look at how many words I've listened to in the last 3 years, you will look at it is at 5.5 million, right? So I don't know if you can see this, but it's fighting between my face and my phone. But you can see that I've spent 325 hours just listening to stuff. So this is on my phone, but I also listen to things on the computer, which kind of accumulates to a little bit more than what the number is. And I also have been using this tool called Whisperflow, which is a new AI tool. All of these are basically transcription tools where you can basically just say stuff and then it would write that out. So we're going to be talking a little bit about these questions on can we replace all front end with voice? So instead of typing, you can just basically use voice. There's a difference between using natural language, whereas basically you're typing things still, while using voice. So natural language and then voice. So these are kind of like these two marks that you have to hit. What makes voice better than text? And what is the design philosophy with voice? So what I want you to approach this is in order to like kind of understand these technologies, you don't have to basically implement them, but also understand them from their principles in terms of what makes them good and what makes them bad. Like it's a knife, right? Like you can use it to like harm people or you can use it to like actually cut food. Same thing with fire. So you got to understand these technologies on when they're good and when they're bad, right? So we're going to let you brainstorm some ideas. So take 5 minutes. I think 10 minutes is a little bit too much, but where voice might work well. So we're not going to talk about the design philosophy right now. I just want you to basically take a break and think about where voice does well. So I'm going to let you take a break. So I hope you brainstormed some ideas on where voice might work well. So let's kind of ask this questions, or just kind of start the base for comparing voice, visuals, and text. So it's a little bit interesting on how you can basically look at all of these things when you're interacting with a computer. So there are two components of interaction with a computer. So there is one you're giving it instruction and it's telling you feedback in terms of what that was. So you can use voice for like instruction and also feedback, like Perplexity. You can also combine text because Perplexity also shows you some text. And maybe you can do visuals as well for like things that are a little bit complicated, like your calendar. Like if you're going to basically ask it for your calendar, and if it just says like 10 meetings, that's not going to be, it's going to be like 20 seconds before and you're going to get like tired. So we're going to talk about those. We'll also talk about the expressiveness and enunciations because that's an important factor as well. What is that? Latency in voice design. Like latency is a big issue. Like when you click a button, you can see immediately things change. You can type things and it changes immediately on the screen. So how does latency affect? Like you say something and it takes, I think, a little bit more time to kind of come back. That kind of is like a very bad thing when you're interacting. And we'll talk about the characteristics of natural voice. So I want you to basically not view this as like a one thing for like voice is good for one thing, but kind of look at the idea of technology. Like technology is independent of how it's used. You can use fire to cook food or you can use fire to do arson. Same thing with the knife. It's the fundamentals of how you use that technology which are important. And yeah, we'll look at voice and text. So if you look at voice is not ideal everywhere, right? So if you're in a loud coffee shop, it might be a little bit disconcerting if you're using voice. And speed is interesting because you can scan things faster, but voice is quicker for intuitive input, and it's more intuitive, right? So you just basically say keep blabbing on, even in more intuitive than writing, because writing you have to be taught Speaking, you also have to be taught, but it comes more naturally to us as a human species. So expressiveness and enunciation. So previous generation dynamic digital speech models lacked expressiveness. It's like one of those like robotic voices that Stephen Hawking had, things like that. So 11 Labs, Sesame, even now Bland AI are coming up with these advanced models that capture the nuance, emotion, tones, and speech subtleties, significantly enhancing user engagement. So I got a call from one of these customer agents, and I did not know if it was a real person or not. Like, it was like a little bit weird. I wanted to like say some stuff, but it was like, yeah, it was like I didn't know if it was a real person. So these technologies are getting better, and they're gonna get to a human level in this year. That's my opinion. Latency is very important. So typically around 500 milliseconds to be considered real time. So real time is basically like when I'm talking to Perplexity, where I say something like, "Hey Perplexity, how are you doing today?"
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah.
How about you? How's your day going?
Okay, so it's kind of like a little bit slower, I think, maybe around, I don't know what the time is, but real time is like 500 milliseconds where you're just having a conversation. Impacts of latency: delays beyond the threshold can degrade user experience, making interactions feel unnatural or disjointed. Understanding real time and non real time scenarios is crucial for optimal product quality. So if you want to basically do some interactive stuff, like in terms of use voice for interacting across the UI, like clicking buttons or something like that, you have to make sure whether it's real time is necessary or it's not necessary. For the email example where we sent like a voice, we didn't need real time. But if you're doing instruction to a computer, you might need it. So characteristics of natural voice: authentic emotion, contextual appropriateness, fluidity in delivery. So these are kind of the things that are important, and they're kind of coming in. If you look at the 11 labs that we did, you can kind of add these things to different things like sarcastically whispers. So these models are getting better and better. So let's go back and kind of look at the recap on what we did. So we basically talked initially about if we go to the very start, we talked about the different areas where voice is being used, different providers. We looked at a little bit of case studies, why use voice in your product, speech to text to speech. We did like a quick demo, and then we looked at these projects. First we coded, and we kind of saw like what these projects look like. And then we kind of want to build like these mental models of like, oh, how to use voice. And then you can bring them to your front end. And then we talked a little bit about product. So the goal after this is to basically think about voice as a tool that you can use to improve your applications and look at it from a product perspective on what makes it good, what makes it bad. So I will see you in the next lessons, which will talk about the conversational AI, which is more like it has access to your tools, which is like your calendar and things like that. And it can kind of go and find and do things agentically. I will recommend taking our agent course, which is very, very important to help you understand what agents are. And yeah, I hope this was productive for you and you learned something new. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.